Good morning, guys. A rare opportunity in our household. My husband got home really late last night around midnight. My two kids are still sleeping and it's 7:30. So what do you do when that happens? You hide in the children's playroom slash guest room. That's a total mess in the hopes that we can speak like normal people without waking them up. Because if they sleep to 7:45, I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, really. I've had such a productive morning. Read all about taxes, did some of my taxes. By the way, such a learning curve being a business owner for the very first time filing taxes for a full year. SmartHER News is not a year old yet. We'll be a year old on February 19th, so mark the day. We'll have a little celebration. But this is my first year that I'm going to be preparing taxes for the business. And it's hard. It's definitely confusing and it's difficult. I don't think there's any reason not to share this with you, but I've spent my own savings to build the company and I'm looking at it face to face and I don't have any regrets on that. But this next year is going to be about building a sustainable business. This first year was about making sure that people actually wanted nonpartisan news in this format. And I think we've proved that. But now I have to figure out how can I sustain the business without killing myself. That's any small business owner's dream. So that's what I'm working on. But actually, tax news is something I want to talk to you about too, because this week is the first week that the IRS is actually accepting your tax filings for last year. So you can start getting them in. And there is a little bit of a reason, guys. I hate to rush you, but to start, if you have some things prepared, if you go to H&R Block or you have an accountant or you do it yourself, it might be wise to do it sooner rather than later because of a few things. Not only do we have potentially another government shutdown on the horizon after a couple weeks. Remember, the president said if they don't have an agreement about border wall spending, he could potentially shut down the government again. Seems politically unlikely, but you never know, and that would affect the IRS. So there's one reason. But the other reason is that there was a big tax code overhaul that went into effect in 2018. And the benefits for the average American are there, meaning that likely, and it's hard because I have to say some or may, so just know it applies differently for everybody, likely had benefits from this tax code overhaul, which means that if you did not change your withholdings in your paycheck, you might have brought home more money throughout the year, but you might have a different refund than you did in the previous year. A lot of us, I know when you kind of earn the same money more or less every year, you sort of expect the same refund, right? But this may not necessarily be the case this year because there were all sorts of changes to the deductions that you can take. Some will benefit you, some may not benefit you. It's different how the tax code on the federal level interacts with your state tax code. So just expect a little bit of the unexpected. I took two quotes, one from the Wall Street Journal, one from the New York Times. We have different people saying, hey, the average American could get a much bigger refund than they have in the past. And others saying, it may not look as big as previous years. So just know that might happen. And so it might be a little motivation to get your taxes in. One thing, by the way, I have to give a shout out. My first office mate when I worked in broadcast news was a woman called Tracy Burns. And she's an amazing financial reporter. And we were talking about taxes because that was her expertise. And taxes are confusing, you guys. I mean, let's be real. So confusing. And she pointed out something to me that I've never forgotten, which is that, ideally, none of us would get a tax refund because we would have paid the right amount of taxes throughout the year. A tax refund is actually our money that's owed to us coming back to us. So remember that. If you put that money, let's say the average refund's around $2,800. If you put that money in a bank, you would get interest on that money. But instead you give it to the federal government and they don't give you any interest. They just give you the money back that was already owed to you. Do you see what I'm saying? So the correct way to be, the ideal way would be that you would get a very minimal refund because you got to keep most of your money. So just keep that in mind too. That always like shocked me because it's great to get a refund. So that's something I think you should know. Okay, so that's something that you could start filing now if you want to. Yeah. The other thing I want to just mention to you are two kind of big news items out of Washington, D.C. There was a testimony before the Senate Intel Committee yesterday. You had the Director of National Intelligence, Dan Coates, testifying. And I'm sorry, I saw this later in the day, the full world threat assessment. This is like a 40-page report, and I love this stuff, detailing, the threats against America. And I'm going to read the full report today because I like geeking out over it. Super scary. It's like a worst case scenario stuff, but it's always really interesting. One of the things I did see, there was a lot of news items talking about, these guys contradicted President Trump on North Korea and on ISIS, and that's kind of like the tone of the news. I didn't actually think that that was the biggest news. A lot of people in the intel community believe that North Korea will always pursue nuclear weapons and that ISIS is continuing to be a threat. The real news that I saw from the assessment was that Russia and China are more aligned than any time in the 1950s. And specifically, something that could really affect you and me in the immediate is that Russia has done enough with their cyber attacks to infiltrate into our infrastructure. This is scary stuff, guys, and at least disrupt our various electric grids for at least a few hours. That seemed like big news to me. So that's something that I'm really going to pay attention to. We know that Russian hackers have gotten into some of our nuclear plants, to kind of like the power centers, if you will. This threat assessments, if they could shut down the electric grid for a couple hours, our concerns about Russians hacking into our election, the priority. I'm just asking. I'm not saying it's not ideal that any foreign actors hack into any part or try to influence our election through Facebook. But if millions of Americans could lose electricity, that's something I think we should pay attention to. So expect a card either tomorrow or Friday that'll detail more of the threat assessment. Since I have taxes to do, I'm not sure what I'll get to. Anyways, I'm really hoping I get to that today. And then finally, on Russian collusion into American elections, I think you should know that, there's some talk about the special counsel investigation coming to an end. The reason why there's talk about that is that the acting attorney general, the, top cop in the country, or law enforcement officer, the acting director said in a press conference, I think this could be coming to an end, but we have no idea. So you should know that that was said. That's why people are thinking about that. The investigation has been going on for 20 months. This is specifically looking at Russian collusion in the 2016 election in regards to the Trump team. There have been arrests in relation to that. A lot of the arrests have been lying to the authorities, but there has been no proven collusion yet so far between President Trump and any member of his team and trying to influence the election so far. One of the big questions about this report is whether or not you'll ever see it, because we don't know if that's the case. It may not be made public. So, just take it with a grain of salt. Some are saying this is coming to a close. Some say, who knows? Who knows? So there we are. I think those are your 3 top stories today that you should really watch. If you have any questions, let us know. And finally, if you saw on our website, we do have our first SmartHER partner, Redland Cotton, an American family-owned company that is making and growing their own cotton in Moulton, Alabama, and then they've sourced it all with American partners, so the product never leaves never leaves America. I own their sheets and their towels, and they're trying to get the word out about their company. I thought it was a great way to tell a little bit of a story of what's going on with the American manufacturing and jobs, because so many textile jobs in the American South are gone. And one of the things that I think we really need to talk about, and we'll get to this later, is that I hear footsteps. Oh my gosh, I hear footsteps. Who is that? Who is it? It's Liberty. Just quickly, there's all this question about what's going on in China and our trade deals. Think about this. And this is something that Anna Brakefield, brought up to me from Redland Cotton.
Mama,
Yes.
I want some water.
Okay, do you want my water? Okay, you can drink it. Go, girl.
I'm going to break it.
You're not going to break it, I promise. What Anna was mentioning, and I thought it was such a great fact, is that she said, it's a real national security threat. It's not coffee, it's water. Do you want coffee?
Yeah.
You want a cappuccino?
No.
Just coffee. Just black.
I want this coffee.
Okay. Oh, hi, Trace. Okay, the whole family's here. Okay, I gotta go. But here's what Anna was saying. She was saying basically think about that.
Hi, Trace.
If China or some of these places we don't have the trade relations we do now, could we really not make anything in America if we don't know how to make everything beginning to end? And I thought that was such an interesting fact. And so that's something that Redland Cotton is trying to do. So check out what they're doing. I think you like it. You get a discount for being Smart News family. Whoop, whoop. And okay, I'm getting hit by a shopping cart. So things are back to reality. Have a great day, you guys. Thanks so much for listening and your support of Smart News.